Hey guys, Chris here from Carolot Farm. Today is the day that our sweet potato slips are finally going into the garden. We started our sweet potato slips, I want to say back in February, maybe mid-February, and they've slowly been growing. We've been harvesting slips. We've been saving them in jars of water. And then we had to plant them in soil because it was not yet time to plant them outdoors. But like I told you, today is the day. It's the middle of May. So now let's get to it. In total, it looks like I have about 42 sweet potato slips right here. They are gonna pop right out of their little planters and into the garden today. The first thing I need to do though is prepare the soil. It's been tilled, it looks great, but it needs a final work over with the rake. Forgive me if there's a bit of wind noise in this video. It's a bit breezy. This is where I'm planning to put those sweet potato slips. It's at the very end or bottom of my garden. There'll be room for the vines to run if they need. I might even put a trellis line for them to grow upwards as opposed to outwards, but who knows? What I do know is these sweet potatoes will have long vines and they will need a long time to grow. They will grow all summer long and even into the fall. I probably won't be harvesting these until October, approaching November. So I need a place in the garden where they can really just sit and rest and grow. And I think this is just the right place. Now that I'm happy with how the ground looks, it's fairly level, I want to take my sweet potatoes and start laying them out. I like to have a visual, work on the spacing before I start actually planting the plants in the ground. So that's my next step. I'm also thinking though, I've got a really wide bed here. It's probably a little wider than I need for 2 rows of sweet potatoes. And so I think here on the very edge of my garden, I will come back, if not today, another day soon, and plant some sunflowers. Nice tall sunflowers in a row here at the back of the garden are not going to, cause any issues for my sweet potatoes. They'll be lovely to look at. And I have the space, so why not? Because I have so many sweet potato slips today, and I still have more in the house, which probably will need to find a different home. I'm gonna take this small 6-pack. These are some of the smaller plants we currently have, and I'm gonna plant these a little closer together at the edge of my garden bed, and that way if some of them don't make it, those that do will have a little more space. Whether or not that's the best thing to do, I don't know, but I think that's the approach I'm taking with these smaller guys. Even these smaller sweet potato plants that we have potted, they still have a very nice root structure. This plant here is a bit larger, whereas this one is a smaller plant, but even so, you can see the roots are very happy in that little plant. So I think they will take, I think they'll be just fine. And these smaller plants I will have here on the end of our sweet potato bed. Even these larger slips that have been in the ground, well, they've been in pots longer, they are beginning to develop, some nice roots. That right here, this thicker root on the end, that is where the trimming off of the potato had been. And so there is a good root structure here. It doesn't look as good, but I think that is just because there's so much more soil to root ratio in these larger pots. We like to reuse planters when possible. This was a 12-pack. I'm sure I bought flowers in last year. So we've transferred our sweet potato slips into this. To pop them out, I just push a little on the bottom of the pots to kind of loosen them and wiggle them a little. And then if you're very careful, you should be able to remove them without damaging the roots. I do have helpers. Here is a look at one of those larger slips. And this one has a really very nice root structure. There's a lot of nice growth on the top of the plant. So I'm sure this one will do very well in the garden. I know most people don't go through the step of potting their sweet potatoes like we did. It really was just a matter of timing. The soil needs to be warm enough and the air temperature needs to not be too cold. And here in Central Virginia, up until early May, we've been getting frost, the occasional frost. We actually had a really hard frost less than 2 weeks ago. And we did not want to put these tender sweet potato slips out before that fear of frost had passed. I think now it's the middle of May, we should be okay, but we'll still have to keep an eye out because even when they're calling for mid-30s here on the farm, it can dip a little lower and it would be sad. I think at this point though, they'd be stunted, not killed. The roots are pretty strong and hardy, but you just want to be careful not to plant your sweet potatoes too early depending on where you live. I now have all 42 sweet potato slips, plants laid out. I'm happy with how they look, and it's now time to put them officially into the garden. To garden, you don't need fancy or expensive tools. However, I'm going to show you something. I have some tools that are definitely a little worse for the wear. I have cheap tools because oftentimes I leave them in the garden. I don't take the best of care of them, and over the many years they get a bit mangled. But guess what? They still get the job done. Well, for Mother's Day, my husband said enough is enough, and he bought me a nice new shovel. So I will use my nice new tool to plant my 42 sweet potato slips in the garden. It's a nice sturdy shovel. Happy to have it. But if you don't have fancy tools, don't worry. They're not going to hold you back, I promise. Part of the reason it's a bit breezy is you can probably see we have rain coming our way. We need rain so bad. The month of April and into early May, it was super, super dry, and it was pretty hot for Virginia. So any rain we get is a blessing, and I will take any and every drop that comes our way. I have my whole dog. I'm gonna set my little sweet potato slip right there and just cover it up. My garden soil is looking really good this year. I'm very pleased. Over the years, it just gets better and better, but one down, 41 more to go. You may have noticed where some of these sweet potatoes were in larger pots. Those are the sweet potato slips that we planted first. Some of them have been in pots for, I'm betting, close to 2 months now because they got such an early start to the season. So they needed more real estate to grow, and they needed more nutrients. And that's why some of these are much larger, more substantial pottings versus the little teeny ones that were in that 6-pack or even the 12-pack. I want to take a second here and just show you I am halfway through with planting my sweet potato slips. I've done the right-hand side, and now it's time to plant those on the left. Once I finish this, if I have time before the rain, I do want to show you the rest of the garden because things are looking really, really good these days. Lots of fun stuff to show you. First things first though, got to finish the task at hand. Success. They're all on the ground. They look good. Now I want to show you around because the garden here, I felt, got a bit of a late start. We had a pretty harsh winter. Snow and ice hung around until the middle of February, and it meant we were a little behind with some of our plantings and our tilling. But despite all that, things are looking really good. So where to start? Let's start with those sugar snaps. My sugar snap peas were planted the first week in March, I believe, which was a little later than usual. But as you can see, they're beginning to flower, and I would imagine we'll be picking our first few sugar snaps by the end of the week. So that's exciting. A few of our other earlier crops were bok choy, which we're starting to harvest. And I don't know if you can tell, but it is beginning to bolt. We had, I told you, some warm weather a week or two ago, and a lot of these cooler crops went faster than usual. So we do need to steadily work on eating that bok choy. My baby kale is looking good. And if I can move forward enough without stepping on my friend the cat, our collards are almost ready to pick. They're looking great. These crops, the collards and the kale, we'll continue to pick on, and they'll keep growing for, another couple of months into the heat of the summer. So we have time for those, but the bok choy definitely needs to be eaten sooner rather than later. This next crop I want to show you, I have covered with netting because I did see the groundhog a few days ago, and so there is fear that the groundhog's going to get in and start nipping everything, and so we covered everything we could. There are very few things that are not covered or protected, but let me get this netting off because I definitely want to show you what's underneath. Here is the lettuce. I am so happy with how our lettuce looks. It's done really, really well. Like the bok choy, it did grow really fast in the heat, and it needs to be harvested because it too will start to bolt before long. But a pretty darn nice stand of lettuce. I'm a big fan of planters. I like them for this very thing. I use them to raise the height of a frost blanket or a netting such as this. Quick and easy to get into. You can harvest, cover things back up, and so far I've not had critters get in. So wish me luck. I hope I haven't jinxed it, but I'm really happy with the way these planters are working out for us right now. It's starting to rain. I don't know if you can hear the pitter patter, so let's finish up this garden tour because there's still more to show you. My shallots are doing well. This is the second planting. The first planting all but fizzled out. My leeks, however, they're right here on this back row. They're doing well. They were the original leeks. So everything seems to have really taken and they're beginning to thrive. So that's great, but they need time. Like those sweet potatoes, these crops will sit here and grow for, I'd say, a couple months, maybe towards the middle of the summer, if not later. The leeks, sometimes I even just let go until the fall. So I'll keep giving you updates on those, but I'm really happy with how they're looking these days. I want to show you our little potato patch. We have a few kitty cats hiding in it. These potatoes were planted on March 18th, a day past St. Patrick's Day. They look great. We had a little frost that did nip them a few weeks ago, but everything has bounced back. And I'm pretty tickled with how these guys are doing. This is my cat Frankie here, taking a little nap. I think one of the things I'm most excited about though right now, I'm gonna turn my camera around so you can get a really good view. These next two crops, we did not start ourselves. Pretty much everything else in the garden, either we started from seed indoors or it was directly sown or planted into the garden proper. But these two crops, I have a 6-pack of cabbage and a 6-pack of broccoli. I did buy them from the local farm and garden store. We didn't have much success with broccoli, cauliflower, or cabbage last fall. It kind of limped along through the winter. We had a little cabbage here and there, and that was about it. So I didn't want to have that again this spring, and just to err on the side of caution, I did buy these plants, and let me show you, they look fantastic. First up, I want to show you the cabbage. They look great. That yellow tab, well, that is a groundhog deterrent. It's some funny smelling tab, but the cabbage plants are all beginning to form really nice looking heads, and I have incredibly high hopes for these cabbage plants. And then we have the broccoli plants. All 6 of these broccoli plants are getting nice little broccoli crowns. I cannot wait. I hope they get to be big and fantastic and exciting. You know, we have already doubled, tripled, quadrupled the amount of broccoli that we harvested last year just based on these little teeny heads. So I'm really excited, guys. I'm sure you can tell. Now here on the end, we do have 2 other broccoli plants that we started ourselves. One is right at the edge of the planter, and one is just outside the planter, which is looking pretty good. Let's get a closer look at that one. This last plant here did not fit within my silver planter. Again, I was using the planter to try to protect my plants from the groundhog. And so the planter was able to go around the 6 cabbages and the majority of the broccoli. We have netting staked up around it for extra height and protection. But this last broccoli, we just had to go ahead and wrap with some wire fencing. And so far, everything has been left alone. I imagine you can tell it is beginning to rain, which is a wonderful thing. I do, though, want to show you one more thing we have in the garden. Well, 2 more technically. It's our squash and zucchini. We started these indoors from seed, I don't even know when. It was a long time ago. They've been in the garden now for, I'm gonna say 1 to 2 weeks. They're looking great. I don't think I'm gonna plant anymore. Originally, I thought I would start with these plants and then put more seeds in the ground. But I think looking at it, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 squash, 9 zucchini. That should be more than enough for our family, and we can still have plenty to share, I'm sure. So I don't think we're gonna do any more squash and zucchini. But after this rain comes through today and maybe into tomorrow, I will then get back out in the garden because I have peppers and I have tomatoes and I have eggplants, and I'm sure we have more stuff that need to go into the garden. But first we need rain. One more small till maybe. I see a few weeds that have popped up where we are planning on putting some of these plants, and then I'll give you that update just as soon as it happens. But thanks for joining. I'm so happy we got those sweet potato slips in the ground, and everything, like I showed you, is in a pretty happy state these days. Happy gardening and hope to see you soon. Bye guys.